I stood there in the relentless Arizona sun, the dry wind whipping through the red rock canyons of Sedona, as they lowered what was supposed to be my husband's casket into the parched earth. Jack had been my rock for 8 years, a steady accountant in our small town, handling finances for local ranches and oil outfits. Now, he was gone, or so everyone said, taken by a sudden heart attack at just 35. The funeral was simple, like Jack would have wanted, a handful of folks from the community, our pastor reciting verses under the shade of an old mesquite tree, and the distant hum of highway traffic reminding us life went on. His mom, Susan, clutched a faded handkerchief, her eyes red from crying, but I caught her sneaking glances at her wristwatch, like she had somewhere better to be. Ryan, Jack's younger brother, stood beside me, his arms slung over my shoulder in that brotherly way, murmuring, "He's at peace now, Emily. No more pain." His words felt scripted, like he'd rehearsed them in the mirror. The past few days had blurred into a haze of casseroles from neighbors, sympathy cards stacking up on the kitchen counter, and endless paperwork. Doc Harlan had sworn it was quick, a massive coronary.
No suffering.
But as I tossed a handful of desert sand onto the coffin, something gnawed at me. Jack had been acting off lately, jumpy as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. We'd met back in college in Phoenix, bonded over hikes in the Superstition Mountains, and built a quiet life here in this rugged corner of the West. He wasn't the type to keel over without warning. As the crowd thinned, ranch hands tipping their hats, old friends from the Rotary Club offering awkward hugs, Susan and Ryan lingered. "We should head back, hon," Susan said, her voice cracking just a bit too perfectly. Nothing left to do but grieve. I shook my head, rooted to the spot. "Give me a minute alone." They exchanged one of those looks, the kind that had been happening all week, quick, loaded with unspoken words. They'd been whispering in corners, cutting conversations short when I walked in. "We'll wait by the truck," Ryan said, squeezing my arm before they trudged off. Kneeling by the grave, I placed a single prickly pear bloom on the dirt mound. The sun beat down, casting long shadows from the nearby saguaro cacti. I tried to summon memories, Jack's easy laugh echoing through our adobe-style home, his calloused hands from weekend ranch work, the way he'd kiss my forehead after a long day. But all that came were flashes of his recent paranoia, the locked doors, the constant checks over his shoulder during our sunset drives. My phone buzzed in my jeans pocket,
Jolting me.
Probably another "thinking of you" text from a cousin. But the number was unknown, and the message hit like a gut punch. "I'm alive." That's not me in the box. My heart slammed against my ribs. This had to be some sick prank, the kind of cruelty that thrives in small towns with too much idle gossip. I scanned the empty cemetery, dotted with weathered headstones and yucca plants. Another text popped up. "Emily, it's me. Hard to believe. I know. Don't trust my family. Meet me tonight at the Old Juniper by Red Rock Crossing." "Alone?" "I'll explain. Red Rock Crossing, that was our spot, where Jack and I had our first kiss under the stars, sneaking away from a group hike. Only he knew how special it was. But I'd seen his body at the mortuary, cold and still. This couldn't be real. One more message. Check the inner pocket of my denim jacket in the closet. Left you proof only I'd know. My breath caught. That jacket hung untouched since the day he died. How could anyone else know? Glancing at Susan and Ryan in their pickup, heads bent in heated discussion, I felt a chill despite the heat. If this was true, my world was about to shatter. 3 weeks earlier, life had started unraveling like a frayed lasso. Jack had always been the calm one, crunching numbers for cattle barons and energy firms, coming home to our cozy ranch house with stories of the day. But overnight, he turned into a stranger. It began with the calls, his phone ringing during dinner, his face draining of color as he stepped out to the porch, voice low and urgent. "Who was that?" I'd ask, stirring chili on the stove. "Just a client mix-up," he'd mutter, avoiding my eyes, his fork trembling slightly. Then came the security obsession. Our door had always been open to neighbors dropping by with pie. But suddenly Jack was installing deadbolts and motion lights. On walks through the arroyos, he glanced back like we were being tailed by coyotes. "Jack, you're freaking me out," I said one night as he double-checked the windows. "What's eating you?" He paused, fear flickering in his eyes. "Nothing, darlin'. Just stressed from work. Some accounts aren't adding up right." But it was more. He started staying late at the office, a squat building on the edge of town handling finances for big oil leases. When I'd call, his assistant would say he was in a meeting. He'd drag in after dark, exhausted, like he'd been wrestling steers. "Special project," he'd explain. "Boring ledger stuff." I glimpsed papers once, bank transfers, red-flagged amounts, not his usual ranch audits. The climax hit 5 days before his death. He burst in from work, face flushed, grabbing my hands. "Emily, if anything happens to me, don't trust my family. Not Mom. Not Ryan. Promise." My pulse raced. "What do you mean if anything happens?" He glanced around our living room, with its Navajo rugs and family photos. "I uncovered something at work, embezzlement. Maybe worse. Dangerous folks involved. Then call the sheriff," I urged. He shook his head. "It's tangled. I don't know who's clean." We held each other, his body shaking. "Promise me," he whispered. "I promise," I said, terrified. 5 days later, he was pronounced dead. Back home, I rifled through the closet, fingers brushing his denim jacket. In the pocket, a folded note in Jack's scrawl. "That old country tune we danced to at our wedding, the one you sang under your breath this morning while brewing coffee. Worried as a hen with one chick." I collapsed on the bed. That very morning, I'd hummed Amarillo by morning absentmindedly, a habit when anxious. How could he know if he died that afternoon? Next day, I visited Doc Harlan, claiming insurance needs. His office, with its faded Western art, felt off him fumbling files, avoiding my gaze. "Heart attack. Quick as a snake bite," he said. But Jack was fit. We hiked Camelback Mountain regularly. Time of death, around 3:30 p.m., where, at the office, Ryan found him. But Ryan had told me he'd heard from Susan via a call from work. At Jack's office, the receptionist clucked sympathetically. "Jack left early that day. Said he fell off. No collapse there." Ryan had lied. Digging deeper, I found bank statements, $20,000 withdrawn in bits from ATMs across the valley. And hidden files, discrepancies in oil company accounts, funds funneled through dummy LLCs. Someone was cooking the books, and Jack had spotted it. Susan's call that night. "Emily, we're worried." "Stop digging. It's grief talking." Her tone hardened. "Let it go." But the life insurance, $500,000 loomed. With me out of the picture, it'd go to them. The pieces were slotting together like a jigsaw puzzle of betrayal, and the image forming was darker than a moonless desert night. If Jack was alive, his family had orchestrated this charade for the payout, tying into whatever shady dealings he'd uncovered at work. But why fake a death? And who was in that coffin? The questions swirled in my head like dust devils as I paced our living room, the terracotta tiles cool under my feet. I couldn't sit idle. That afternoon, I drove to the county sheriff's office in Flagstaff, the red cliffs blurring past my window. Sheriff Diaz, a no-nonsense guy with a mustache like a broom bristle, listened as I laid out the inconsistencies, the texts, the note, the lies about where Jack died.
Mum.
Grief can play tricks, he said, leaning back in his creaky chair. But we'll look into it. He promised to check the autopsy report, but his eyes held doubt, like I was some hysterical widow. Back home, another text from the unknown number. They're deeper in this than you know. Ryan's been skimming from client accounts, oil money from big rigs up north. Mom's covering for him. Oil money? Jack's firm handled leases for fracking operations in the Navajo Nation lands. If Ryan was involved, that explained the paranoia. I confronted them that evening at Susan's ranch-style house on the outskirts, where horses grazed in the corral under the setting sun. Susan opened the door, her face lined with what looked like genuine weariness. Ryan lounged on the porch swing, nursing a beer. "We need to talk," I said, stepping inside without invitation. The air smelled of pot roast and tension. "What's this about, Emily?" Susan asked, her voice quavering as she poured coffee. I laid it out, the discrepancies, the withdrawals, the fake death vibes. Ryan's face hardened, his jaw clenching like he was chewing nails. "You're losing it."
Cease. Jack's gone.
This wild talk ain't helping nobody. But Susan's eyes darted away, her hands twisting a dish towel. Doc Harlan said Ryan found him at the office, but the receptionist says Jack left early. Someone's lying. Ryan slammed his mug down. "You accusing us? After all we've done?" His voice rose, laced with menace. "Drop this, or you'll regret it." Susan shot him a look. "Ryan, enough." But the threat hung heavy as monsoon clouds. Driving home through the twilight, taillights glowing like fireflies, I felt exposed. If they were desperate enough to fake Jack's death, what stopped them from coming after me? The insurance policy named me beneficiary. But with Jack dead, family could contest it under Arizona law if I disappeared too. That night, sleep evaded me like a sly fox. I tossed in our king-sized bed, the ceiling fan whirring overhead. Around midnight, my phone lit up again. "They're planning to silence you. Meet at the Juniper tonight. Bring nothing traceable." My heart pounded. Trap or truth? But the note in the jacket was undeniable. I had to go. Red Rock Crossing was a 20-minute drive, the road winding through vortex sites tourists loved. I parked off a dirt trail, hiking the last half-mile under stars brilliant as diamonds on black velvet. The old juniper tree loomed, twisted branches like welcoming arms or a snare. "Emily," a whisper cut the night. I whirled, and there he was, Jack, stepping from shadows. Thinner, bruised, arm in a sling improvised from a bandana. Tears blurred my vision as I rushed into his embrace, inhaling his familiar scent of sage and aftershave. "I thought I'd lost you," I sobbed. He held me tight with his good arm.
"I'm sorry."
Darlin' had no choice. We sat on a flat rock, the creek babbling nearby. He explained he'd discovered Ryan embezzling from oil accounts, laundering for shady investors tied to land grabs. When confronted, Ryan begged for time, but Jack planned to report it. Then they pitched this crazy plan: fake my death to buy time, collect insurance to cover Ryan's debts. Doc Harlan owed Ryan gambling money from poker nights at the casino. He agreed to falsify records, but Jack overheard them plotting a real kill. They drugged him, dumped him in an abandoned mine shaft out in the Badlands. He escaped, barely, hiding in an old prospector's shack. Who's helping you? I asked. Buddy from work, Mike Torres. He's clean. Been sending texts, gathering proof. Mike was Jack's coworker, a former auditor with government ties. We can't trust locals. The investors have pull with some deputies. As crickets chirped, Jack winced, adjusting his sling. Emily, this ain't just theft. Ryan's tied to a group evading taxes on fracked oil. Maybe even environmental violations. People have died. Accidents on rigs. The scale hit me. Not family greed, but a web threatening our community. Headlights pierced the darkness. 2 trucks rumbling up the trail. They followed you, Jack hissed. We bolted into the brush, thorns snagging my jeans. Gunshots echoed. Warning shots? We hunkered in a wash, hearts racing. Mike's got evidence, Jack whispered. Flash drive with emails. Transfers. We take it to the feds. As the trucks idled, voices carried. Ryan's.
Angry.
She's onto us. Susan's. Pleading. This has to stop. They searched, but missed us in the dark. Once gone, we trekked to Mike's hidden Jeep. At his trailer on the res edge, he handed over the drive. FBI contact in Phoenix. Agent Reyes. She's building a case on these oil crooks. Exhaustion crashed over me, but hope flickered. Jack alive changed everything, but so did the betrayal. Dawn broke over the painted desert as we huddled in Mike's trailer, the air thick with coffee and tension. Jack's bruises looked worse in the light, purple swells from his escape. A gash on his forehead stitched with fishing line. You need a real doctor, I said, dabbing it gently. He grinned weakly. Later. First, survival. Mike, a sturdy Navajo guy with a no-BS vibe, spread documents on the table. Wire transfers showing Ryan funneling millions from oil leases into personal accounts. Emails to investors promising clean money. These aren't small time, Mike said. Tied to a syndicate out of Vegas. Using Arizona land for laundering. They've bought off locals, maybe even Sheriff Diaz. Jack nodded. Ryan got in over his head with gambling debts. Started skimming to pay up. When I found out, he roped Mom in. She's always bailed him out. Susan, fierce protector. Widowed young. Raising boys on a shoestring ranch. But this? She sounded scared last night, I said. Like she's trapped. We debated next moves. Going to the sheriff, risk leaks. Instead, Mike called Agent Reyes, a Fed investigating corporate fraud in the Southwest. Meet at a safe spot in Prescott, old mining town motel, she instructed via burner phone. The drive was tense. Jack in the back under a blanket, me scanning mirrors for tails. Prescott's pines offered cover. The motel a faded relic from gold rush days. Agent Reyes waited, sharp-eyed Latina in jeans and badge. Show me what you've got. We played the recordings Mike had snuck. Ryan's voice. The insurance pays next week. But Emily's sniffing around. We handle her quiet like. Susan, Ryan. No more blood. Doc Harlan. I'm out. This ain't what I signed for. Reyes's jaw tightened. This links to our case. Syndicates killed before, rig explosions ruled accidents. We'll protect you. But as she copied files, my phone buzzed Susan. Emily, meet me alone.
Coffee shop in town.
Please. Jack shook his head. Trap. But her voice earlier haunted me. What if she's flipping? Against advice. I went, wired by Reyes. Feds nearby. The diner smelled of fry grease and pie. Susan sat in a booth, looking haggard,
No mock-up.
hands wringing. Emily, I never wanted this. Tears welled. Ryan's my baby, but he's gone too far. She confessed. Ryan's debts spiraled after their dad died. Poker turning to high stakes with syndicate sharks. When Jack discovered the laundering, Ryan panicked, proposing the fake death for insurance to repay. I thought it'd save us all no harm. But they wanted Jack gone permanent. She slid a USB. More proof, Ryan's ledgers. I took him last night. Why now? I asked, voice steady despite the storm inside. Because you're family. Jack's my son. This hate. It ain't right. Reyes's team swooped in quietly after. Arresting Susan gently, she'd cooperate for leniency. Back at the motel, Jack processed it. Mom turning state's evidence? Never saw that coming. We held each other, the weight lifting slightly. But Ryan was still out there.
Desperate.
That night, alerts blared. Ryan spotted heading our way.
Armed.
Reyes set a sting. We waited in a decoy room. Hearts pounding. Tires crunched gravel. Ryan burst in, wild-eyed.
Gun drawn.
You ruined everything. But feds tackled him mid-rant. In interrogation, Ryan broke, admitted the plot, named syndicate heads. I didn't want to hurt Jack. Just needed the money. But greed had poisoned it all. As cuffs clicked, I saw the broken boy beneath the monster. Jack whispered, Brother. Why? Ryan hung his head.
Bride.
Fear. It was a start toward healing. With Ryan in custody and Susan under house arrest pending testimony, the syndicate unraveled like a cheap rope. Agent Reyes's team raided offices in Vegas and Phoenix, seizing servers loaded with evidence of money laundering through phony oil deals. Headlines screamed, Western crime ring busted, family betrayal at core. Our town buzzed. Neighbors whispering over fences. But sympathy flowed our way, pies and well-wishes stacking up again. This time with awe. Jack and I holed up in a Fed-safe house in the Pines near Payson, a cabin with a view of the Mogollon Rim. His arm healed slowly, but the emotional scars ran deeper. Nights, we'd sit by the fire, talking it out. I should have come clean sooner, he admitted, staring into flames. Thought I could fix it alone. I squeezed his hand. We're a team.
Cowboy.
No more Lone Ranger stuff. Susan called daily, voice cracking with remorse. I enabled Ryan too long. Lost sight of right and wrong. Jack forgave, gradually. Phone chats turning from tense to tentative laughs over old stories, boyhood pranks on the ranch. Family barbecues under starry skies. Family's messy, he said one evening. But blood's thick. Doc Harlan turned himself in, spilling on falsified reports for the syndicate. 3 accidents, now reopened as murders. He got a plea deal, testifying against the big fish. The insurance company voided the policy. But we didn't care, we were alive. As weeks passed, the trial loomed in federal court. We prepped with Reyes, reliving the nightmare. But glimmers of good emerged, community rallies for rig workers affected by the fraud. Environmental groups pushing for cleaner practices. Our story inspired folks reaching out about their own family secrets, seeking help instead of silence. One crisp morning, we hiked a trail overlooking the Verde River. Jack paused at a viewpoint. Emily, this mess taught me, trust ain't blind, but forgiveness mends. I nodded, the sun warming my face. And seeking truth saves lives. Ryan's sentencing was poignant. In court, he faced us, eyes down.
I'm sorry.
Greed blinded me. Judge gave him 15 years, with parole possible if he cooperated fully. Susan got probation. Community service at a debt counseling center. Fitting irony. We visited Ryan in prison. Glass between us. I'll make amends, he vowed. Jack, start by forgiving yourself. It wasn't easy, but it was human. Life resettled in unexpected ways. Jack and I didn't enter witness protection. The syndicate's collapse made it safe enough. We sold the old house, bought a small spread near Sedona, with views of Cathedral Rock. Jack switched to honest auditing for nonprofits, helping ranchers navigate taxes fairly. I volunteered at a crisis hotline, drawing from our ordeal to guide others through betrayal. Susan moved in nearby, rebuilding bridges over coffee and hikes. I was scared of losing my boys, she confessed. We forgave, focusing on fresh starts, family dinners where laughter drowned old pains. Ryan wrote letters from prison, sharing books on redemption. This time inside's teaching me humility. When paroled after 5 years, he joined a reentry program, working construction, paying restitution. Our first reunion was awkward.
Une tentative.
But time healed. The biggest lesson? In the vast western expanse, where isolation breeds secrets, reaching out saves souls. Our story became a quiet legend, proof that even in drama's depths, humanity prevails. Greed destroys, but love rebuilds. And in the end, family, flawed as it is, can find its way back under the same wide sky.